Hi my loves, Assalamu alaikum. You're welcome back to our Tajweed class. And today we have mud. Understanding mud in the Quran. What this mud even is. It is actually a series, inshallah, and we will treat it one after the other till we are done with the whole mud in the Quran, hopefully, inshallah. But for today, we want to concentrate on what this mud even is in the Holy Quran in the first place, and how do you even identify them in the Quran. To recite the Quran properly, it is crucial that you learn how to deal with mud. And some people call it madda actually. So do not be confused. It's all the same thing. You must know how to deal with mud because it is the most common rule in the Holy Quran. It is just everywhere in the Quran. Mud, simply put, is just an indication of an elongation in the course of recitation of the Holy Quran. There are mud signs. And wherever you see that sign, it is an indication that you are to elongate your recitation. We will get all to that with examples from the Holy Quran, inshallah. But for you to understand this words correctly, there is something called harakat. Probably you've heard of it. Maybe someone say this mud is for 2 harakats or 4 harakats and so on. Maybe you've heard of it. If you've not heard of it before, harakat is just the measuring unit for mud. Harakat and mud goes hand in hand. Wherever there is mud, there must be harakat because, as we said, harakat indicates elongation. And so, how would you know how long you are supposed to elongate that place for? It is only through harakat. Now, harakat is just like the meter of mud. It is the timer of mud. So it tells you the measure of the mud. The shortest harakat we have is 2 harakats. And 2 harakats represents a second. 1 second equals 2 harakats. So how would you know how to even measure this? Are you supposed to get a watch, a wall clock or something? No. There is no gadget for that. I do not know if there is a gadget for that, but there is no gadget for that as long as I know. So the simplest way to know is of fingernails, just like this now. Each finger you bring out represents a harakat. And each finger you bring out represents 2 harakats. And 2 harakats is just a second. So now, being that you have understood the concept of mud and harakat and you know what mud is, let's now move forward to identifying this mud. Mud comes in 3 forms and they are usually called the long vowels. That is in Arabic, of course, right? And the 3 forms are alif, waw, and ya. These 3 letters represent mud. But how would you now differentiate it between the proper alif and a mud alif? Usually, when you see a mud, alif, waw, or ya, it usually comes without any diacritic attached to it. Either on top of it, under it, there is no diacritic on it. And diacritic, you know what I mean by diacritic, right? Diacritic is just what differentiates letters, something like fatah, kasra, dhamma, or fatatain, kisratain, dhammatain, sukun. All those things are diacritics. So whenever you see either of these 3 signs without anything on it, without fatha, without kisra, without dhamma, without fatatain, without kisratain, without dhammatain, for either of these 3, then you know that it is a mud. However, sometimes you would find them in another form. Let's say they are sidekicks. These are their representatives and they are written in a much smaller form. All of them are like that, just like this: alif, waw, and ya. But that ya, the small form of the ya, the representative of ya, is not written as the same ya. Instead, it is written like this. Math student, is this greater than or less than? Whichever it is. How many years now? Oh, alhamdulillah, I'm done with math. I don't like math. So yes, this is the representative. Usually in the Quran, you would see them not written as big as this. They are written very minute. Don't worry, I will show you the example in the Quran. Now let me write them together so that you would understand what I mean. Now you can see the three of them all together. Each one has its own sidekick. When you don't see the big one, you see the small one. It all serves the same purpose. It's all the same thing. It's just that it's been represented by the other one. Usually the smaller ones represent the big ones. So you can see alif is written the same way. Alif, alif. Wow, wow is also written the same way. Wow and wow. Whilst ya is the only one that has a difference. Ya, the big form of ya is just as it is, ya, but the smaller form of ya is the one written as, is it greater than or less than? Whichever it is. Whenever you see all these mads, know that they are elongated for 2 harakats. For now, just know that it is to be elongated for 2 harakats. That is for just a second. Now let me give you the example of it in the Quran. Here is an example of it in the Quran. And the first example here we have is in Surah Al-Fajr, verse 15. And it is the small wow. It is the sidekick of the wow. This is the small wow, so it's a mad. It is elongated for 2 harakats, and that is why when you're reciting that place, it will be فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ, then وَنَعَّمَهُ, another wow, small wow. If not, if that small wow isn't there, this mud indication, you could easily say فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ. You see, like you are just moving ahead without saying who. Before I proceed with giving you the whole examples, there is another type of mud which is called the secondary mud. It is written this way. Usually you will find it on top of something, a letter or something like that, or on top of another mud also. I will show you all the examples, but this is a secondary mud. Now let me show you the example. In Surah Al-Fatiha, verse 7, which is the last verse, وَلَضَّالِّينَ, here, this is where you find your secondary mud. Can you see it? This one up there, it is the secondary mud. And then our third example, we have the wow here. You see, this one is much bigger than the sidekick, right? But it all serves the same purpose. They are all to be elongated for 2 harakats. Notice there is nothing on top or under it, right? This is how you indicate that this is a mud and not the proper wow as in later. The next one is our alif mud, and here it is. You see, wadaniya. Can you see it? After the dal, there is an alif there, right? After the alif, then the noon. That alif is an alif mud because it doesn't have anything attached to it, not on top of it and not under it. This is an alif mud. However, we still have the sidekick here. Alhamdulillah, here is the sidekick. You can see they are all alif, but the first one is longer than the second one. So this short one also is a mud. And a mud, as we said, to elongate the place in the course of recitation. And that is why we will say wadaniyatan. and not wadaniyatan, wadaniyatan, and not wadaniyatan makes a huge difference, and that is the function of the mud. And of course, in this place, zilaluha. If there is no mud there, you could simply say zilaluha. But because of the mud, and to make sure you pronounce that place correctly by applying the rule of the mud, which is 2 harakats, that is why you would say zilaluha. And reciting the whole verse, I would say wadaniyatan alayhim zilaluha wa dhullilat qutufuha tadlila. And before we move on, I want you to still notice something. Did you see this? This is also a mud. It's the same alif, just that it has been joined with the writing of the letter, but it's the same alif there. It's the same alif mud. It doesn't have anything attached to it, and it serves as a mud actually. So yes, and that is why we say ha and not hawa. Hawa dhullilat, but we say ha wa dhullilat. Moving on, here I just want to show you an example of where you can find a mud on top of another mud also, but they all serve the same purpose. And here it is, like you see, this is a mud ya, and that secondary mud, right? And here also is a secondary mud and mud alif. So whenever you see all this, it's still the same. It doesn't mean it has been changed to something else. They still serve as muds. Our next example is our mud ya. This mud ya, this is the sidekick of mud ya. And you can see here it is. Is it that greater than or less than? This is mud ya. So it serves the same purpose. 2 harakats and you're done with it. The next one is our proper big mud ya, and here it is. You can find it in Surah Al-Mulk verse 1. Ladhi. You would know that it is a mud and not a proper letter ya, because there is no diacritic attached to it whatsoever. That is why you say alladhi and not alladhi ba'. You see, there is a difference. When I say tabarakalladhi, tabarakalladhi biyadihi alladhi, this shows that there is a mud there because of the 1 second waiting, which is the 2 harakats waiting that I made there. But if I do not want to apply the rule of the mud there, which is not proper actually, I would just say tabarakalladhi biyadihi. You see, ladhi biya. I have removed it. There is no waiting of 2 seconds whatsoever there, and that is how you know that you have applied the rule. Know that this mud is very important. There is no how you would skip that mud, especially the 2 harakat mud. There is no how. It's the least in the Quran and is meant to be followed just the way it is. So yes, we are wrapping up the class with this, and inshallah our next class we will begin to take the muds one after the other. We will be treating muds like maddul jaiz, maddul lazim, maddul iwad. See, just any mud you can think of. And of course I should meet you in the comment section, right? In the course of you can also suggest whatever mud you want to see next, and we will treat it inshallah, except of course. So yes, jazakumullahu khairan. Love you all.